All right, it's Robert Phoenix. We're back for another edition of Astro Weather, and I'm rocking my Taurus earth tones today. What do you think about that? I'm definitely rocking the Taurus earth tones. We're going to rock Taurus earth tones for the next astrological season. I have no idea what I'm going to do with Gemini. Maybe we'll go black and white special with Gemini. Oh, there she is. Are you going to make an appearance on the show today? Or are you gonna be a ground support? We're talking about Peachy. Peachy's a very interesting cat. Let's put it that way. Very, very interesting. All right, let's get to the Astro Weather. Boy, wow. We are still in the aftermath of this. Can I just say it right now? This motherfucking eclipse. I mean, it has been a motherfucking eclipse. On my other show at 9/11, I'm going to get into the Tucker Carlson thing in greater depth and greater detail. And the eclipse will be part of that story, but it won't be the entirety of it. So let's get into the post-eclipse astro weather. It's sort of like this solar storm came to town and knocked everything down. And how bizarre was it that both Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson, these icons hated on both the left and the right, are gone. Right? Oh, you know what? That's Al Pacino's chart. My bad. We're going to talk about Big Al. There we go. It's more. No, that's not it either. Let's see what do we got here. You know what? Give me 1 second, because I don't want to have another day where I hit the nuke button and delete a show. I don't want to do that. Once a year is enough, right? One of the things that theoretically people need to do, in my humble estimation, is to show some consistency. It's a lesson that I've had to learn. And, it's one of those Taurus lessons. As my great grandmother once said, a constant drop wears a hole in the rock. If that's not a Taurus statement, I don't know what the hell is. Right? That is a big Taurus statement. All right, so let's do this. One of the things I was going to bring this up on my show today, but I'm going to also bring it up here because theoretically this is also my show. I am of the mind that when we interact with people now, that we're not dealing with real people. And this is beyond NPC world, right? We're dealing with people who have been modified, like genetically modified, or life circumstances, or forcing them to act out in ways that aren't entirely human. There's kind of a circle the wagons mentality going on. And it's only, I think, going to get worse until we wind up sort of pooling together. And that's going to be by necessity, which I talked about on Sunday night show. So let's get into it here. We have the sun at 5 Taurus. So we're in first decan Taurus, very, very fixed, very stubborn. And again, if you're working on something and you're investing time and energy into it, we still have Mars has moved out of the trine with Saturn, but now the sun here is kind of coming in and backfilling, right? So the sun is going to catch up with Mars, and we're going to have a sextile between the sun and Mars, and that's generally good for energy. That is, but it's not flashy. It's not necessarily sexy, but Taurus can be sexy. It's not necessarily sexy, but it is grounded. And with Mars in Cancer, which is fitful. It's a fitful Mars. It moves forward, it moves back. It's kind of defensive in a lot of ways, right? It's not the best position for Mars. But here we have the sun coming in, we have Mercury, right? The sun is in kind of a wide sextile right now, but it's going to get closer. Mercury is certainly in a sextile, and so is Uranus. So, the Earth warriors here are coming into play and sextiling Mars. And, I think it's really amazing. I was watching this video of Kevin Bacon and his wife, Kira Sedgwick, and they're doing a TikTok dance, and it's for drag queen appreciation as art. Okay. And I'm going to talk more about it on 15 minutes, but I couldn't think of a more tone deaf display by two people who are so out of touch in their elite stratosphere. Okay. They think that they're down with a cause that exemplifies and exalts human rights. They couldn't be more further from the truth at this point. And because this is really what we're talking about here. And we look at like Bud Light and the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing and the Alyssa Heinerscheid or Heinerschneid, or her real last name is Gordon, Alyssa Gordon, and how she's been put on administrative leave. And this is what we're looking at, right? Taurus is nuts and bolts. Taurus is in a lot of ways the working class. And we're seeing a revolt here, right? We're seeing the sun and Mercury, Uranus, and it's coming in, right? They're coming in and it's sextiling Mars. And Cancer is a really conservative sign. So we're seeing this very conservative energy getting tapped into right now. And even with the advent of Tucker Carlson's departure from Fox, whatever you think of Tucker Carlson, he did for a period of time really represent the Vox Populi. He's far from done, by the way. But this is the energy right now. And with sextiles, it's all activated. And then when we see something like the ridiculous and tone-deaf video of Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon, it only emboldens this energy. And we have the moon in Cancer today as well. And here, what we're really protecting is traditional values. As unsexy as it sounds, right? And there was a time when, promoting gender bending was cool. Like promoting David Bowie was cool. Promoting Mark Bolan and T-Rex was cool. Even in the late 80s and early 90s, actually mostly the late 80s, with the hair bands, it was kind of cool. I never thought it was cool, but it was kind of cool, right? Like there was that, ooh, this is we're in risque territory, and boys and girls get all mixed up and messed up, and it's kind of experimental and fun, and you know what? Like, yeah, for a while that was the vibe, and now it's de rigueur. Now they're amassing an army of potential sociopaths, which is really what's taking place now. And so here we're seeing the battle lines, this is what's happening. And today, people are, if whether it's in general or in your personal life, people are really over it. They're over it. And we're seeing it now. I mean, what's interesting about how the inner planets and even Jupiter will come to the party here very quickly, have aligned, is that we've had all of this Aries, which is igniting, right? It's getting people engaged. It's getting people, pissed off, actually. Like that, when we look at all the Aries that we've been through, that's what's happened. And by the way, these energies are agnostic, because there's the other side. that is also angry and pissed off. And, you know, we're seeing people who are threatening to kill somebody if they stop them from using a restroom that their daughter is in. Okay, so that's the Aries energies that we've been dealing with. You know, both sides of this. It's not even about race anymore. Like the whole race thing is in the rear view mirror. It is like that is not on the table. They have moved the Overton window, and the Overton window has to do with gender, right? That is the new revolution. That is the new race war. It's all about gender. And the challenging part about all of this is that when you start to augment people and you start to inject hormones into their system, they do not act rationally. Okay, both, whether it's male to female or female to male, there is no, the hormones will kick in and they will overdrive whatever kind of endocrine chain is in that individual. And it's clearly you will not be dealing with somebody who is rational. It's like the worst possible cocktail. And I'm just being straight up about it. Okay. It's the worst possible cocktail. So now that we've had all of this excitation in Aries, now here comes Taurus. It's implacable, it's fixed, it's entrenched. And today the battle lines are drawn, right? This is what's going on. And really over the next 48 hours as the moon is cycling through Cancer, where emotions are very intense, very, very intense. We think about our progeny. We think about, you know, in a lot of ways, we think about our loved ones with cancer. It's not just our progeny, but it's our parents, and everything comes out of that fourth house chain where our emotional attributes are drawn from. That's just a, you know, that's the tail of the tape. And that's where the energy is today. So, you know, this is with all this fixed energy in the air, right? If you want to accomplish something, you know, Uranus makes it a little bit difficult. It's just a little bit difficult because it's gonna throw things slightly off kilter. Uranus isn't necessarily a traditional planet, right? But it's in the mix, and we can't deny it. We have Uranus Mars sextile. So if you move and move quickly now, it can be with some sort of creative end or enterprise that's associated with it. But these are not fast energies. But I'll tell you, when Taurus gets up ahead of steam, it is like a buffalo, right? It's like a buffalo on the plain. And you better get out of the way when a buffalo gets up to speed. That's the nature of Taurus, and that's kind of where we're headed, right? The sun is going to run into Uranus. You know, right now it's dancing with Mercury, and it's probably going to catch up to Mercury here pretty quickly. Well, because Mercury's retrograde, right? That's the other part of this. The Mercury retrograde is watch out for being a bull in the china shop, especially when the moon moves into Leo. It's not so bad today. It won't be so bad over the next 24 hours, but when the moon moves into Leo and we got Mercury retrograde, all decorum goes out the window. All decorum goes out the window. So it's definitely bull in the china shop energy. Mars is moving more into square with Jupiter. And I got to tell you, patience is going to be in short supply. People are running out of patience. And again, that's where we're dealing with this whole idea of modified humans. You know, whether it's shots that have modified them, or the social economy has modified them. We're not really dealing with real humans anymore. That's problematic. And we think we are, and we think that we can have reasonable discussions or relationships with people, and it's just not on the table. It's hard. I mean, it's very hard. In order to get to the core of dealing with people, you are going to have to have either immense patience, or you're going to have a certain type of psychological sophistication, and if I dare say subterfuge at times, in order to navigate through part of what we're experiencing. Now, today, the moon is in trine with Saturn, so you can affirm what your values are. Saturn supports it. You know, if you're affirming that your values are more conservative, when I say conservative, I'm not fucking talking about conservative as it relates to a political party or a political outlook. Conservative means that you conserve your resources. You conserve, you grow a garden, you sew your clothes. Maybe you shop at a secondhand store, you buy a used car, right? That is conservative. It's not extravagant. So today, with the moon in Cancer, we have that nice moon trine to Saturn, and that conservative energy is in the air. I think we're gonna have to really pay attention to Mercury retrograde with the money situation. We'll have more on that as Mercury evolves. And today we have Sun Pluto square, man. And we're going to be in that square for the next 3 days. And again, everything's really intense. And the Sun in Taurus, again, it's conservative. You know, those are conservative signs. They're unless you're Liberace. God, there's a Mike Douglas interview with Liberace and Little Richard. I saw it on my YouTube feed. I have to watch it. I got to see what these two characters have to say. So Mike Douglas is unafraid of bringing interesting people on his show. The one of the best Mike Douglas interviews was him, Muhammad Ali, and Sly Stone. If you haven't seen it, I've played it on my show before. It is must viewing. All right, let's get into the star of the day. Today's star of the day, well, you kind of had a hint of it already, is Al Pacino. And Al Pacino is a really interesting character, both from an astrological standpoint and from a cinematic standpoint. You know what's interesting about Pacino is how little we really know about his personal life. I mean, look at somebody like Alec Baldwin. Like, what don't we know about his personal life? He's got a wife that's on Instagram all the time, babbling in a language that it's not even her native tongue. She's impersonating somebody from Spain. Like, we painfully know more details about Alan Baldwin's life than we would care to, right? But not Al Pacino. And I'll share some really odd pieces about Al Pacino's life. But one of the things that we can see here is that he's got a 10th house sun. And most people with a 10th house sun are known. They're in the world, right? They're in the world. And so he really occupies that 10th house sun position. Now, what's interesting about his sun, we go down the little chain here, minor aspect. We got a conjunction with Saturn, and then ultimately a square to Pluto, right? Boom. So conjunction with Saturn, square to Pluto. These are the major aspects that define Al Pacino. Now, he's had endurance. You see this with the Sun-Saturn conjunction, is endurance. And so he's playing roles deep into his career where other people are probably, dropped off the train at a certain point, but not Pacino. Pacino still gets steady work, whether you like his work or not. It's still steady. The thing that really typifies for me Pacino is Jupiter and the South Node and Mercury, and they're all in Aries, and he has the Aries midheaven. And he is known for those Aries roles, right? He is known for Scarface. He is known for Sonny in The Godfather, right? Those are roles that typify Pacino. He's known for crime movies, anything that with Aries and dealing with Aries and violence. Pacino's name is associated with it, right? He becomes the capo. And with Hollywood stars, you can really see their charts in their movies. Like this, the Sun Saturn conjunction is the conjunction of the capo, right? And even inheriting something from Saturn, from Marlon Brando's character in The Godfather, he inherits the title and the throne of the capo for the Corleone family. I mean, it's a very interesting chart in that regard. And he has, again, like look at a film like Serpico, where he plays a cop, right? He plays a cop in Serpico. And what is he dealing with in Serpico? He's dealing with corruption. He's really dealing with the South Node. And this is why he's so effective in Serpico, because with his true node in Libra, he's trying to achieve some level of balance in that movie, based on a true story. And you can see his roles. You can see his roles in his movies. Even a film like On Any Given Sunday, where he plays the coach of the football team that's featured in Any Given Sunday. He's not just any character, right? He's kind of like the general or the da capo of the team. And his speech in Any Given Sunday is an amazing speech. Of course, it was written by Oliver Stone, but nonetheless, it was an amazing speech. And he's a Leo rising, so he's always going to be kind of. Pacino's got weird hair sometimes. He just has weird hair, but he is clearly a Leo rising, and he's got Pluto here right on his ascendant. What's also interesting about Pacino is the fact that his career has gone through stages, where in the 70s, he was a hot pocket, right? Like there wasn't anybody hotter than Pacino during the 70s. And then during the 80s and the 90s, his career really, he makes some very bad choices. Bobby Deerfield, about racing. And what have we seen about Aries? We've seen that the sign Aries contains racers. Like, you have Ayrton Senna and Steve McQueen. Like they're both racers. Even James Garner, who starred in Grand Prix, and James Garner sponsored a racing team. You get that daredevil effect with Aries. And so he plays Bobby Deerfield, where he plays a Formula One racer, right? So, but he made a bunch of bad career choices. And so then he resurrects his career later on, which is very Pluto conjunct the ascendant. And of course, we get the hoorah with Scent of a Woman with Pacino, which he won an Oscar for. And a lot of people think he probably shouldn't have won an Oscar for it, but that's beside the point. What's also interesting about Pacino is his relationships. Like, I think he was only married for a very brief period of time. And if you look at his relationship history, he winds up having relationships with women that he works with in the movies, right? On the set. He had a relationship with Diane Keaton. And then he has this connection with the actress Beverly D'Angelo, who I think he was in a movie with. And then they wind up having, guess what? Twins. In vitro twins. There's your Venus-Mars conjunction. And that's part of it, right? That's just part of it. They have these twins and they get into, guess what? A custody battle. So we have the opposition with the moon. Like they get into a custody battle over these twins that were in vitro. Very strange, bizarre, right? The other thing with Pacino is that you'll find that in some of his movies, he'll play characters that are quasi kind of either gay or homosexual. Dog Day Afternoon, which is one of his famous movies about a bank heist gone wrong. What's he doing? It's based on a true story now. He's playing the role of a character who is trying to steal enough money to, guess what, pay for his partner's sex change. There's your Venus-Mars conjunction in Gemini, right? Again, we see people like this and their lives are portrayed on the screen, and a lot of their film choices, whether they're their own choice or it's the adaptation or the adoption of the movie and the role, it's all in the mix. He in a movie, he plays in a movie called Cruising. Again, you're dealing with very Plutonian kinds of themes, even with Pluto in the 12th house and conjunct the ascendant. A movie like Serpico deals with corruption in the police force. With Pluto on the ascendant, just coming out of the 12th house, he's most well known for his character that is connected to the underworld, which is very Plutonian in the first house. In a movie like Cruising, he basically sets himself up as bait, in the hardcore leather S&M scene in the late 70s in New York City. And it's, there's this weird kind of gender confusion that goes on during that movie. Like he befriends somebody because he's undercover who happens to be gay, right? And the guy's gay lover is jealous of Pacino, and Pacino has to sort it out with his girlfriend, but he can't tell her what he's doing because it would break his cover, right? You see this in Pacino's characters from time to time. There's this, the gender piece, at times the gender confusion. And he never played anybody who was a cross-dresser in terms of his cinematic roles. But in Jack and Jill, the Adam Sandler movie, where Adam Sandler plays Jack and Jill, Al Pacino's character falls in love with Jill, who is the female version of Adam Sandler, right? I mean, it's bizarre, but you can see it here with Venus and Mars, and as it's acted out cinematically. And Pacino is one of those guys who can at times flash as being very masculine. Like nobody would ever say that Michael Corleone is not masculine. Clearly he is, right? I mean, he has the, balls of steel. He'll do whatever it takes to keep his family's legacy alive. But then you look at a film like even Serpico, where his character is definitely more feminine. His, Frank Serpico, even though he's a cop, has this more feminine and sensitive side. Like he lives in the East Village. Like what cop lives in the East Village? And, most cops will live in Long Island, or, they might live somewhere in the Bronx, but his character lives in the East Village. So you get this with Pacino. You get this Venus-Mars conjunction where he can flash both masculine and feminine. And then Gemini gets, really kind of confusing at times. So he's a very interesting character. And for somebody that doesn't have a lot of water in his chart, he's good at emoting. And I think it's probably the moon in the fifth house. The fifth house rules Leo and actors. And so he has some emotional content and capacity to draw from there. Also, Neptune in the third house. Even though it's in Virgo, Neptune's ruled by Pisces. So he can approximate feeling through thought. That's how Neptune works in the third house. It's a really interesting chart. Top heavy, above the horizon. This is a guy who lives for his art and his craft. We don't know a whole lot about his personal life. Really, we don't. There's the moon down here. There's Neptune down here. And both those planets, to some degree, represent mystery. You can even see the custody battle going on there with this moon opposition, Venus, Mars, and the twins. It's fascinating. Fascinating chart. Great talent. Not always somebody I like on a personal level. I don't always like Al Pacino. The other thing about Al Pacino is that, again, role-wise, he had this big role on an Amazon flick where he was a Nazi hunter, right? So we have the South Node in Aries, conjunct the midheaven, Aries, right? He's going after these Nazis. He's employing all these, it's basically pre-crime meets revenge porn. And you can just see his characters all over his chart. It's very clear, very, very clear. If you study his cinematic canon, it's all there. It's all there. Now, his personal life, different story. But his chart life and his movie life, it's fully on display. And that's our star of the day, Al Pacino. All right, if you like this conversation and you want to have more of it with some other things thrown into the mix, please join me over on 15 Minutes of Flame. And that's going to happen at 9/11. So that's a half an hour from now, roughly. Little less than half an hour, a little more than half an hour from now. And we'll get into the Tucker thing and more. There's plenty to talk about. And we have a great, great chat group over there. It's very similar to the chat group here. A lot of the same key players, people. So if you enjoy the company here, you'll enjoy it there. In fact, there's even more time to stretch out and talk about things amongst yourselves and tune me out from time to time. So That's available, right? That'll happen over there. 15 minutes of flame right there. And if you're interested in CBD, and I think some of you should be, and this is a time of the year where CBD should be on your list because we are in Taurus season and we are dealing with things that come out of the ground. So let me do a quick shout out for True Hemp Science, who is a partner of the show and has never let me down in terms of my relationship with CBD. So let me just go over here to the website, give you a reasonable visual. That's not a reasonable visual. That's kind of a reasonable visual. So go to treehempscience.com, check out their wide array of CBD products. And if you spend $100 or more, type in 15MINS, 15MINS to get some free goodies. Everybody likes something for free, right? Everybody likes something for free. And you'll get it. And $150 or more, guess what else you get? Free shipping. And you also get the good feeling of helping a Main Street American business grow. So everybody wins. All right. Thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow with some more Astro Weather. Check out the Northern Lights. Apparently, you people that are further north than I am, you're going to hit the Northern Lights a little bit. Northern Lights going to hit you. So you may want to go outside tonight, check out the night sky and see what you can see. I think the Northern Lights are magical and amazing. And like one of the few things in this planet that, can bedazzle anybody, no matter how scaly their hide. All right. You take care. Use your head in order to discern what's real.